So good morning to Mr. Dave. This is Talking Niagara this morning, and we're here on Thursday, the 27th of August. I was going to say April there for some stupid reason. Okay, so welcome all. Okay, that's not right. That didn't. That all went wrong on me. The whole damn show. Weird. The whole damn show's gone funny.
Is it broadcasting? Well, it says it's live, so it must be broadcasting. Is anyone out there tell us that we're broadcasting?
But all of my everything that was saved.
Hear Peter and see Dave's handsome face.
Yeah, no, but all of my stuff on my stream is gone funny, or somehow it's gone back to what it was originally. Okay, so welcome this morning. I won't show the tick. I won't show the ticker line. Well, deal with that another show. All right. Okay. So first thing this morning, welcome everybody, and good morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Rick. I know you'll be coming on board at some point soon. And welcome everybody. So Diodati vows that his 5th term will be his last term. I think I heard that 2 terms ago.
Well, I think Big Jim, he's looking for the sympathy vote right now. Yeah, you know what? I've served and I'm just about done. I'm just about done what I'm supposed to be doing, and I can't see you. I can't see you, Peter. Can anyone else hear me out there? Any case, I think I'm going to have to come off and go back on again. Sorry, everyone.
Right. Okay. So I don't know what happened with Dave. Okay, I heard him say sorry, everyone, and then he died. That's kind of weird because I'm having trouble. Looks like Dave's having trouble. We are still live. One of the things I find weird about this whole setup is that when we have these troubles, the live stream continues to work, which I don't quite know how that actually operates. Okay, so Mayor Jim has basically said this term will be his last term. Gary said yesterday that no, the last term will be his last term. Right? Gary Wilkins has really come up and trying to do that. Dave, what's going on? Okay, he is trying again. There we go. Add him back to the stage. Welcome, Dave. What happened there? So I went away because my browser went funny on me, right? And then as soon as I got back, you went away.
Yeah, well, at the very minute, the very split second I saw your face, I'd already hit the button to restart it again, because I thought something went wrong, and I had to, like we've done before. So there it was. I mean, I liked it. It was I was talking uninterrupted, and it was only my big handsome face on the screen. But I felt I should share, so I went back and tried to read.
Yeah, no, I don't know what happened. My screen basically just it really died. My the screen that with StreamYard on it. Okay, just started stating facts, Peter. Yeah, so basically, yes, Jim Diodati said that that his next term will be his last term, and Gary Wilkins has already said his current term will be his last term.
Yeah, I thought there'd be a lot of that going out there, and I said before, I think it's probably part of Jim's strategy to just to sort of tell everybody, you know what, I've got one term left in me. Give me that one last term. Let me finish off what I've got to do. I've been a good soldier all this time. You know, it reminds me of when some other politicians I'm thinking of right now is oh God, who's the guy? Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, so this is a typical strategy. Oh, you know, I've got, you know, I've only got, you know, a couple more years and then I'll be done. So maybe he's looking for a sympathy vote there.
Well, maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe Kevin Martineau and Paul Manning and Laurie Lococo and the others may have a thing or two to say about that, right?
Yes, indeed. You know, we don't know. Now, Jim and Lori have decided to play clean during this thing, and I can't really see Lori doing anything else. Even if Jim got dirty, it would be very hard for her to bring herself down to that level of mudslinging in politics. But Jim is a wily old guy, and he's been around the block a few times. And maybe Lori began a little early. Just about everybody I talk to or hear, not actually haven't talked to directly, but I hear that, yeah, she's the most favorite politician in town. However, we don't know how people vote, and the incumbents have always got the advantage. And Jim's been around for a long time, and he secured a lot of different votes. And they think that maybe Lori's turn should be next time around. I'm kind of nervous because if she loses, we lose her influence on council.
Yeah.
So that's going to be nervous. I would feel much safer if she went for a council seat. Then I know she would be on council, and that would be the important part.
End up with more votes than she. The possibility is she could end up with more votes than most of the councillors, but not be elected.
Possibly, but look, let's give her everything that's due to her. I think that she does have a means by which to get in.
Yeah,
I hope that, you know, there's a wave of change. People want change, and we're going to get change whether we like it this time or not. Because 3 councillors, Lori's seat, Peter Angelo's seat, and Vince Carrio's seat, they're all going to be vacant anyway. So you're going to get 3 different councillors,
3 new
no
councillors
matter what.
Going to be on. Yeah.
Right.
3 new councillors are going to be on that council no matter what. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You know, and whether that is, you know, and again, you could make the question about whether people like Chris Dabrowski has done enough to secure another term, or you know, or does he deserve to be on there? That's entirely up for the voter to consider. Then there's all manner of new names. Rich Molino's been on the brink for quite some time. Very favored person around here, might well get back on, you know, that kind of thing. Might well get on for the first time.
Well, Dabrowski, I think he's safe because he did get a number of votes, just not quite enough to get on council, but he did get those votes. Now, with all the newcomers coming, he is now an incumbent, which gives him the advantage.
Yeah.
And he did secure a certain amount of votes, so he's definitely got the advantage. Somebody like Mitch Merlino, he's a well-known, kind of trusted person around town. He may have advantage just by reputation. Then you've got guys like Chris Regas, who keeps trying to get on, who has a whole lot of knowledge.
Chris has actually been trying to get on regional council, not so much on city, but there's no region anymore.
I thought he also tried the city at one time there.
Oh, he may have done, but not to my memory, but still, anyway. Yeah.
Okay. But there's a guy that knows a hell of a lot of local politics.
Yes. Absolutely. A member of the Progressive Conservative Party. You know, whether you like his viewpoints is entirely up to you, but has been around Niagara politics for a long time.
Well, we know he has mental issues because he likes Fox and MAGA. But aside from that, he's really good at local politics. If you ever hear him on Paul's show, he's got lots of very good insights. You might not agree with his ideas, but he's watched it carefully, and he understands it and has a huge body of knowledge on local politics. And because political ideology makes very little difference when it comes to municipal politics, we said before, the communists and the fascists both want the sewer fixed. You know what I mean? So to take those extreme examples. So here's a guy who can hit the ground running. I would think because of his interest too. It's a important interest in him. He's kind of like Paul Lemire in a way, who zeroes in on local politics and learns a lot about it. It's got that passion.
Okay, so what Gary is saying here is Diodati only wants another term so he can open the hospital, and he will endorse Mona for mayor.
Well, that would be a disaster. I think if there might be a contribution to his retirement fund if that ever happened. I think, that'll be the day. But anyway, I think Jim would be smart enough to stay out of that part of it. Then we've got guys like Mike Strange, who will still be popular. He might take a bit of a hit, but I expect he will get voted in for the same reasons he's always get voted in.
Yeah. All right. Niagara farmers are concerned about the future of tender fruit. We talked about this before because the floods have left the whole industry in with concern.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is just a follow up on all the other stuff that we've done on this right now. It's an article that goes back a few days, but this is, they're talking about long-term effects on the tender fruit because what happens is the root systems are very delicate. They don't go that deep, so they can be, in other words, they can't protect themselves from over or under watering sort of thing because of where they are. And a lot of the tender fruit is grafted on, so they take a stock tree and then they graft on the kind of fruit they want. With a graft tree like that, you could have different fruits coming off of it, basically, or different varieties of the same fruit. Yeah, it's kind of neat the way they do it. So it's all grafted on stuff, and I think that of course, with farmers, everything is always a risk, no matter what. Sometimes you get when they get a huge, fabulous harvest, what happens? The price of the goods goes down because so much of it is abundant. But if they get a lower harvest, that's usually because of a reason, and any kind of money they do make, they have to reinvest in their farms to find out what caused the reduced harvest. So there's always tenuous situations happening there for our agribusiness, but the agribusiness is very important here. We always talk about the tourist business, casinos, and all that. We forget the agribusiness is very big here, and that's why our lands should be protected because it is a source of income for the region.
Yeah. All right. So it's I get the issue. I get the why, the why it's a concern. All right.
Don't laugh, Davey boy. It's true. Good morning. And here's one.
Yeah.
So here's one from Gold Maple. Hi guys, I want to see the text of the trade negotiating agreement or transcript of Canadian delegation meeting
we'll never
with the U.S. Liberals and Carney are lying. I would like
West
that too, but I would
Virginia.
also like to know what the American was, and that one's not open to us either, and it's not open to the American public either. The trade negotiations on the American side are not open to the American people, and you won't find the Congress demanding that anytime soon because, of course, they're afraid of Trump, so they won't ask for it. Well, so okay. There is an element of secrecy here. I don't know why that is, but we find on both sides of this trade agreement, you don't find any any openness at all.
Yeah, and basically what Green Maple is saying is, I think Carney walked away from a good deal. I'm so angry with Carney, and I'm Canadian. How could he muck up with the US?
Well, our story here is that we did have a deal with Greer on Tuesday, but by within a day or two, Howard Lutnick came in. Now, unfortunately for us, there are two agencies or two people who can slap on tariffs and negotiate our trade deal. And one was Jameson Greer, and he had a deal all set up. But the other one is Howard Lutnick. He's also can get involved in that. And basically, he walked in at the last second and started throwing demands on the table. I think that probably got Jameson Greer pretty angry, but he couldn't say nothing about it. So there was a deal all set and ready to go until Lutnick stuck his face into it. Now, unfortunately, he's the Commerce Secretary and Greer is the trade guy. Well, both of them can negotiate, and that's the problem. When the negotiations was happening, and Lutnick could come in and he can slap tariffs on his own. So that was the big problem we found here, that as we found out with American deals in other parts of the world, there's always these last minute concessions they ask for once they have something done. And that's happened to us too. Remember, everybody says, well, how come you just can't get a deal? Go get a deal. Well, they've been trying to get a deal. They've had, they say over and over and over again, they've got their trade negotiators there. Anytime the Americans want, they push for a deal before these Smoot-Hawley tariffs were going to come in on the 19th of August. They got everything all set and ready to go. And you can't have a deal when the other side doesn't want it. It takes two to tango. And when you're tangoing and all of a sudden the other person wants to say, I'm going to do a rumba now, what are you going to do? This pressure on Canada, how come you can't make a deal? Just go make a deal. Well, you can't make a deal with somebody who wants to take advantage of you. You got to stand up to that stuff. And we've heard over and over and over again, the only ones that Trump has ever respected are the ones that won't roll over and die and call him daddy. He just despises the Europeans now because they just gave in to him like the wimp dogs they are. We didn't. We're fighting back. So let's keep fighting. Trump can't live forever.
Oh dear. If
we have to wait till he's out of office, okay, we'll do that.
Okay, so that actually reminds me of something I saw yesterday. Of course, Dolly Parton died yesterday. She was 80. And somebody else who was 80 died recently. And the person was saying, Dolly, somebody else, and Donald Trump. And I wish I remember the third person. Could they all die at 80?
Yeah, the other guy was famous for a number of things. I saw him in Muppet Treasure Island. He was a good all-around actor. He brought a lot of comedy to any part that he made. I just can't remember his name, but I'm not good with movie stars. I'm not good with popular culture.
No, neither am I. That's why I couldn't remember him. And Dolly Parton comes. You see, Dolly Parton. The only reason I remember her, I'm not a fan of her music, but hey, as a person, she's done a lot for people.
She's also written some excellent songs, like I Will Always Love You was a monster hit for Whitney Houston as well as herself. And that was a superb tune. So she's a good songwriter. But as she has self-described, I heard her on the radio the other day from an old interview. It is that entertainer with the big hair and the big boobs.
Yeah, but self-described. Note that, right?
Yes, it was self-described. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she
described herself that way.
She has always described herself that way, and yes. And the thing is, she is a good entertainer, right? And as I said, I'm not into her music, but as an entertainer, she was awesome, right? And yeah, an awesome lady. She did a lot of, and the thing is, she did a lot of charity work. And she basically, one time about 10 years ago, I heard her say she's made enough from her record. She's always going to have a lot of money coming in from her records. She's never going to be poor. She put a lot into poverty charities in America.
Well, yeah, she's a charitable person. She came from a family of, I think, about a dozen. They lived in a one-bedroom shack someplace, typical Appalachian style type Southern person, poor white farmer types. And anyway, she learned that, and she became very famous, very charitable. I mean, like for in the country music thing, where it's perfectly all right to have 16 facelifts and all kinds of Botox. That kind of always annoyed me a bit about Dolly Parton, because she started to look like something I don't even know what that was, what she was looking like. But her heart, but of course, you got to do that in the entertainment business. Frank Sinatra had all kinds of different toupees glued to his head, and because he couldn't go out there and just sing bald, because that's what the audience accepts. So I think it would have been better if she could just be herself without having to have all the Botox and facial surgeries and all that. But then again, maybe that's what her audience needed. Maybe that's what had to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So anything more about US-Canada trade talks and they collapse?
I don't know. They say that they might begin again. You've got this tit for tat between Ford and Trump. Anytime Carney speaks of it, when he speaks like a gentleman, and he speaks like a diplomat, and he speaks with bearing, with a bearing of a Western leader. Unfortunately, when Trump he just sounds like a petulant child. I'm going to change the lake to Lake America, like I did Gulf of Mexico. Like, what the hell was the Gulf of Mexico thing like anyway? What was the point of that? Gulf was called Gulf of Mexico for 440 years. And he said, I'm going to change it because I can. Because, who's going to stop me? Kind of thing, So I don't know. I think the guy's losing his mind. I think Trump's losing his mind. He's more interested in gold statues and putting his name on stuff, and we're not going to go bow to him. Look what the Swiss did. The Swiss went there. They gave him a bar of gold, and they gave him a special gold inlaid Rolex watch. What did FIFA do? They gave him a gold, Peace Prize, anything to bow down and do something. We're not going to do that. I don't think he likes that, but I think he respects it.
Yeah. Okay, so
we're not going to bow down. Hey, get that through your head, Trumpy dude. We're not bowing down.
Right. So basically, how did the markets go up yesterday? Is what Mike is asking. I don't know. I wasn't looking at them. Now, Dow Jones winning streak ended. It dipped slightly following hotter than expected monthly inflation data. NASDAQ 500 major indexes are relatively fat or finished slightly lower during the trading session. So I don't know that was true, and that's my AI overview on that. That I just asked the question. So the trade talks the trade talks are pretty major, can have pretty bad, dire impact, particularly on our local business.
Yes, it's gonna. Well, we're going to war. It is said that we can't win the war, but we're going to make sure that they knew they were in a fight. That's typical. Now, what they plan to do is target red states and target purple states where the Republicans are in trouble or could be in trouble, and with their counter tariffs, so that when it comes time for the midterms, whatever we do with tariffs might encourage a few people to vote against the Republicans, and or at least against a Republican that is a MAGA Republican. You know, we want a Republican that has a mind of their own. You know, not a cultist. I'll put this here too. This was kind of interesting. I was listening to a quick blurb by Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly. He's a very staunch. He's a supporter of Trump and all that. He's a conservative commentator. But even he called the other day when I was listening to him that 30% of the MAGA followers of Trump were cult-like. They were like in a cult, he said, because they will do anything Trump does. If Trump says, well, I'm the peace president, they love peace. If he goes to war, they love war. They'll do anything that Trump does, and he'll believe anything that Trump says, and he calls them a cult. And I thought that was remarkable because, for the most part, he's in the corner of Trump. You know, so he slagged the MAGA, the 30%. He feels there's a 30% MAGA followers that are cult followers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm sure Trump's really pleased about that.
Okay. All right. So,
look, we got to remember too. This is the U.S. administration, and I will echo Dougie Ford on this one. It's not the American people who got to hang up with. It's the American administration, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Netanyahu warns of targeted strikes if Hamas doesn't stop flying kites towards Israel. Well, the truth of the matter is it's kind of kids flying kites and doing so for the first time because they haven't had that opportunity in years, right?
Well, it's not just kites. And I mentioned this yesterday, if you remember, near the end of the show. I remember I talked about this.
Yeah.
And what it is most of the bombing have stopped. So what the kids do is they want to go out and play. The problem is some people have found old drones and stuff and balloons. So, of course, this has made Netanyahu very, very nervous. He says, well, drones, of course, you can imagine drones, right? In the early part of the war with Hamas, Hamas had the advantage. They dropped things on the Israeli army from drones and that, which wasn't expected. But it wasn't long before that was overcome. So, of course, they're worried about drones. Okay, you can expect they could be worried about drones. They also don't want drones going up and taking pictures of the devastation and then sending it out to the world because they don't like that. Yeah. The balloons, I don't know what they've got against the balloons. They said, okay, you could put bombs on balloons and float them over to Israel. Well, I doubt that very much because they're big, but he says so, right? The kites are the things that bother me. It's just kids running around with kites. Yeah. He's saying the kites could have bombs on them. And I mean, kids with that'd have to be a pretty tiny bomb to go on a kite. These are kids' kites. Yeah. And kids are along the shoreline, running up and down the shoreline, trying to get their kites up. But he says that makes Israel too vulnerable. So you can't do that. So I'm going to start bombing people again. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Definitely. Why don't you bomb a kid with a kite, Netanyahu, and then tell everybody they were a terrorist?
Well, the only impact that really kites have had an impact in at some point, well, like barrage balloons, which are essentially kites, had an impact in the Second World War in Britain because they put the barrage balloons up in order to try and stop the Germans coming in close.
Sure. That's what they're doing in Gaza. Yeah, that's for sure what they're doing in Gaza. Yeah, so the kids are putting up balloons. Bearish balloon go. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, definitely. Well, Netanyahu will talk you into that for sure. Oh yeah, those kids' balloons. Oh, they're so dangerous. Ooh. What it is just another effort by Netanyahu. If anyone's having fun or living, he's going to stifle it. He's going to put his thumb down on it. Are their kids having fun over there? Let's make sure they don't have fun and they suffer. So their parents will think, okay, the only thing we can do is leave this area, force them to leave their homes. They're doing the same thing on the West Bank too. He's an ugly man with an ugly background. He's a Polish guy anyway, right? He's a Polish guy that changed his name. Well, he was born in Israel, but his parents were Polish, and they changed their name to make it sound more Hebrew. Netanyahu wasn't his name. He changed it to that.
Yeah.
Go back to Poland.
Okay, there you go. Go back to Poland. Yeah. There. Okay. Okay. All right. So pickup trucks, tariff relief and trade restrictions were the sticking points, apparently.
Okay, we're back to the trade negotiations.
No, we'll skip that one because actually that was the missing headline that I forgot. Okay, people standing in Grimsby.
Yeah, the reason why I put this article here is only for one reason only. I don't think whoever's standing in Grimsby will have a whole lot of effect on us. We don't vote for them. But yeah. I put this in because Cheryl Gannon from West Lincoln has won her by acclamation. And she is a Kiwanian. I work with her in the studios on McLeod Street. When she comes in, she's on the phones and stuff. So I put it in there just as a shout out to Cheryl Gannon. Congratulations.
She won what on acclamation?
Mayor. She's mayor. 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 One of them.
Okay.
She won by acclamation.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go then. All right. Well,
so congratulations to Cheryl. Funny enough, she's got a whole bunch of signs she paid for. She doesn't know what to do with them and pamphlets and stuff. So she's going to repurpose her pamphlets to thank you pamphlets and send them around. But she made the investment and so on. She didn't need it. So I know her because she's a Kiwanian, and so they're in pretty good shape with Cheryl Gannon at the helm.
Well, there you go. All right. So she's got a hard job in coming up in October as a new mayor. Because
no, this would be a second term. She won by acclamation.
Second term by acclamation. Okay. All right. That's fine. I didn't know she'd won the first time. You didn't say that.
No. But anyway, so she's the mayor. And anyway, I just put it there to congratulate her. That's all.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you. It wasn't Grimsby. It was West Lincoln. Yep. So there we go. All right. German shipbuilder TKMS could build smaller Corvette-type warships in Canada.
I was surprised the Corvettes, they're still using the Corvette. The Corvette, of course, was a staple for Canadians fighting the submarines in the North Atlantic. They were very quick. The submarines couldn't key up on the Corvettes too easily. And so they were quick. They were awkward in the Second World War. They were an awkward thing. They had to have a really good captain and who had a real feel for them because they were light and quick. And sometimes you had to really know how to maneuver them. But of course, the modern Corvette would be completely different. These are basically lightly armed, quick ships that will be able to patrol Canadian shorelines. Well, this is good news. This is very good news.
Yeah, I would think we need them anyway because we've got thousands of kilometers of shoreline where there basically is a lot of there's a lot of inlets. There's a lot of ocean out there that is in part of Canada.
Yeah, of course we have the world's longest shoreline of any country.
Yeah.
So we have to get up there. Now the big problem, we didn't have to really worry a whole lot about the Northwest Passage part of Canada. It's all around the outside where Russia particularly is very aggressive in the North Pole. In fact, I think the Russians claimed the North Pole a little while ago. I mean, the geographic North Pole, not the magnetic one. When they actually put a flag on the bottom of the sea or something like that. So, but of course that's counter with the claims of Canada and all that. I think we can sort that out with them, but they're being rather aggressive, and we have to answer that aggression with our own. Now, we have heard about the 11 icebreakers that are going to be built in Quebec, and we need those. We need those to get through the Northwest Passage. We need those to get close to our own people if we need to, if they get trapped by ice in any kind of.
Well, icebreakers are in constant use up there because there's a large amount of shipping that gets to those northern communities that comes in by ship in the summer months, and a lot of them rely upon the shipments coming in.
Yes, and you're going to need good icebreakers, and they're going to build 11 of them. So that is very good news. Yeah. Very good news. But along with that, with the one thing we can thank Trump for is getting our act together with our military. Now he said he told NATO, not just Canada, but told NATO, get your act together. You're not even putting in the 2% you said you were going to. And he said that in his first term, and that started to wake people up, and he's on it again in his second term, and it continued through Biden's era. So finally we are doing that, and it looks like we're going to put 5%, which was unthinkable before. I mean, the Trudeau government just thought, we might be able to get to 2% in the year 3000, but no. Carney's putting the governments now are putting a lot of agencies into getting money and investment into our military. Now, we've always had a respectable military, but we underspend, and that was true. And now it's time to reverse that and get those ships out there, and make sure that we are protecting our shores.
Okay, so at the moment, there's kind of in the European shipbuilders, there's cooperation because they're building some of the ships together, and basically ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems and Navantia SA from ThyssenKrupp being a German company and Navantia being a Spanish company, they are operating in a joint venture for some of these ships, and actually, so they're ramping up. They're ramping up production of these ships, and they're going to be, including Canada within that. So they've designed the ships
within that what?
Within that whole concept of building new ships.
Well, we find that that part of the new, we find that Europeans are answering the call, of course, to improve their own munitions and everything, which should make the Americans happy, but it's made them angry because the Americans said, well, you got to buy our stuff. You can't make your own. What? We're making our own, and we're putting our own money into it. And we're fashioning up our own, and so some you can't make the guy happy. Oh, you got to buy our war stuff. You got to buy our weapons.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
anyway,
actually,
so
that you say, and the history is that, for example, British military equipment, some of the best planes have been British, right?
Well,
and
it may be, and the French have got their own Mirage fighters and so on, and that, but and of course the Swedes have got the Griffin.
The Griffin,
but we anyway. So basically speaking, everybody's reinvesting, and they want, and of course with Canada or the other ones, in cooperating in trying to bring our military up to where it should be. We are cooperating with the Europeans, and the Europeans are cooperating with us, and we may get a spillover effect from Europe and they themselves from us. So what you want to do is you want to build as much of it as you can in your own country to save your tax dollars in your own country. And that's I think that's the push here. And all these cooperating countries in Europe are cooperating one with one another, and they might overlap and start to cooperate with Canada. So there could be trade and technological swaps or anything we need for basic military stuff. Now, this is not leading edge stuff. It's not like the super duper stealth fighter type of, but this is, you know, your meat and potatoes type of military that you have to have, you know, like ships guarding your shorelines. You know, you need, when I was out in Halifax a couple of years ago, I saw the Canadian ships coming in and out of there where they were going, and they would go on patrol for months at a time in the Arctic and so on. So they were doing their thing. There's just not enough of them, you know, but they were doing their work steadily. And my hat's off to the Navy and other Canadian military. But it's time that we help them out. We invest in them. And part of this European thing they were talking about, making corvettes and so on, could help us invest in our military. Not only that, but it could bring jobs on shore. So I think that's the mutual cooperation thing between Europe and Canada is growing, it looks like, in defense procurement. And I think that's a good thing overall because it stimulates the growth in Western or the NATO power, you know?
Yeah, and it's bringing our bringing our spending levels up to the NATO, what's seen as the NATO norm, and we may even be up to the 5% fairly quickly. That's going to take a couple of years, but you know.
Well, you see the difference. You see the difference between Carney and Trudeau, right? Trudeau says, "Oh, well, we might be able to get to 2% in the year 2030 or something like that." No, Carney just says, "No, we're going to get there quick." And thereafter, we're going to get to 5% quick.
Yeah.
He didn't he didn't wimp around at all.
Yeah, do it today. Do it today. Was his attitude.
Started right now. Yeah. And he's looking at it. There's job potential here.
Yeah.
So let's invest Canadian money in Canadian military. That's Canadian money spent in Canada. You know. And
basically,
then if you partner with the other countries, then there's that trade cooperation too. So.
Yeah, this means that Irving Shipbuilding in Halifax is likely to get some of the contracts here to build these new ships.
Oh, they have. They're already laying down. They're already laying down the keel
in future tense when I should have been talking in current tense. Yep, sorry.
They're already laying down the keel beam for the destroyer, the Fraser. So we're going building a destroyer. Remember, back in World War II, around World War II and afterwards, we had one of the largest navies in the world. I think we had like the second or third largest. After it was Britain, United States, and Canada, I think was third. And that's because we did so much transatlantic protection of convoys and stuff. We had a huge amount, and we were able to supply in the Korean War a lot of ships there.
Yeah,
because we had so many. But it's all been declining ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and that's the problem. The challenge with that is, of course, that we've not had. I guess that the lack of there being a war, so to speak, has meant that has been declining.
Well, there's been a Cold War, and that's the problem. And of course, the U.S. was right. We've been tucked behind them. Oh, they'll fix it for us.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a bomb, you know, they've got nuclear bombs. We don't have to get our own nuclear bomb, but that didn't mean we didn't have to do the other stuff, you know, like buy and procure, get our armed forces up and ready to go. So I would say that is the biggest favor Trump has done for us, is to wake us up on that one. And even though he did it for his own purposes, it worked out that it was good for us too.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and the thing is that, like, for example, building the fleet, we've got a lot of shipbuilders here, and if we're going to actually build naval fleets, we have to get them done, with our own shipbuilders.
Well, I remember back in what was it, the late '80s or early '90s, working on the military ships in in Port Weller.
Yeah,
I think they had the HMS Nipigon there. They were revamping her from beginning to end. Now, I didn't get on that job, but I was working on a different part of at Port Weller that I'm glad I didn't get on that because my brother was in the ship. He says it was super cramped and he couldn't get parts and he couldn't get tools and you're cramped in these little spaces. And there were so many guys in there because he wanted to get the job done so fast.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I got the job of lining up a gigantic lathe that was like, the lathe for big propeller shafts in the ships. So that was a sweet job. shooting it optically, and there was peg after peg after peg that had to be just so much, just like everything had to be lined up and off of benchmark.
Yeah, that's a tough job because in fact you probably by eye it looks great, right? But then when you run a laser down it, you've got all these horrible nicks here and nicks there, right?
Yeah, well, we didn't have a laser. We had a optical device, right? But I was the grunt anyway. I'm the guy that had to get the sledgehammer and swing on the big slug hammer or slug wrenches, right? So I had to hammer it down while the guy was eyeballing it, right? And when he got to, within, I thought we had to be right on anyway. So we tried to get right on to the thou, right? And then I'd have to lock it up and he'd have to shoot it again. And I go to the next one, but there was dozens and dozens of these where I had to use the sledgehammer to hammer them down with a sludge or hammer them up, depending on which way it had to go. And it was all along the bed of this huge, huge lathe. And the reason why, of course, it had to be as close to dead nuts as possible. And because they're going to be either fixing or making propeller shafts.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Okay. So moving on, Loblaws has basically been is basically backtracked on its idea of dropping the country of origin labels off after a consumer backlash about this.
Well, we have to know that the country of origin labels must be making a difference because all the stores have tried to do that trickiness, like either make it look as if it was made in Canada by putting a flag on it, but made like packaged in Canada instead of product in Canada, but they put the Canadian flag on. I got flim-flammed about 2 weeks ago. I bought V8 juice. Right. And it had a Canadian thing on it. Right. When I got it home and looked more carefully, it had a Canadian thing on because it was made by Campbell's Canada. Right. But it was actually made in the United States, so but it had this flag on it. I'm thinking I didn't look carefully enough. So you have to look now. When we're here, like you want to buy local first and Canada second, and then all others. Right now, I'm excluding the U.S. from anything that I buy. The only thing I buy from the U.S. these days is a small jar of walnuts, about this big, every week or 2 weeks. But aside from that, I don't buy anything I know that comes from the U.S. But I will buy from any other country if it is not available from Canada.
But again, one of the things you always know is that bananas or something come from Guatemala or Costa Rica or somewhere like that.
Yeah, that's what makes the tariffs in the U.S. so dumb. Like, if you're tariffing bananas, why are you tariffing bananas? You just made it expensive for your own people to buy bananas. You're not helping the banana industry of North America because there is none. Or of the United States. So that's another thing. I don't know. I don't understand the tariff because most of the economists that I I try to listen to have said the same thing. This is the dumbest tariff war they've ever seen before. And even if they agree that some targeted tariffs would be good for the United States or any other country, this overall tariff thing is just dumb as dumb can be. So you got to wonder why they're doing it.
And as you're saying, it's one word in just what you said. Some. In other words, targeted tariffs. You know, what the economists are saying is they understand and would agree that targeted tariffs are necessary for certain markets, right?
Yeah, to protect your industry in certain zones. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's very focused, very targeted, and it is down to specific type products. Because
for instance, steel dumping. Steel dumping's gone on for a long time, and it has affected Canada and the United States equally because for a while there, Germany, China, Japan,
China is
dumping steel like crazy. China's doing it now, but I'm going back to the 90s. Like at that particular time, you could have had targeted tariffs, right, against steel, and they finally got their act together and started doing it. But when you target somebody else that is having the same problems as you, right, you want to target the steel coming in from China. You don't want to target steel coming or going from Canada to the United States.
Yeah, and exactly. China's the one who's dumping steel right now.
Well, I know by looking at how this has happened, I can understand that Trump is not telling us his real name. He says it's Donald Trump, but after reading his stuff, I think it's probably mostly dumb old Trump is more likely his name because it's all dumb.
Well, we've got back to this this person's statement yesterday that deaths happen in threes, and he's praying for Trump to be the next one.
Yeah, well, I just hope that the Republicans get a spine, because most of them, like we said before, they had symbolic votes in the Congress and in the Senate that said that they wanted the USMCA to stay the way it was. Yeah, that it was for the United States, and this tariff stuff against, they could tariff anywhere else, but the tariff Canada and Mexico was wrong. And that was from a Republican-dominated Congress and a Republican-dominated Senate. So we got to know that there are a lot of people behind the scenes telling Dumold that he's got to back off here. It's just, I mean, you could do tariffs where tariffs make sense, but if you're tariffing bananas and you don't grow bananas, something's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the whole tariff things, not encouraging trade anyway, in my view.
Well, here with the Loblaws thing, there we find that the country of origin has had a big impact on sales, and that's why the stores looking for profits from other kinds will try to disguise or deceive you into thinking the product comes from Canada when it doesn't. And if they can't do that, they make sure it's hard for you to figure out where the product is coming from.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be doing that if it did not have an effect on them. They're buying X amount of product and they want you to buy it. And they don't want you to buy the Canadian one or the Ontario one because they make more money off this other one that they bring in from outside the country, and they try to pretend it's Canadian. So I don't know why would they do that. It all has to do with profits, because Loblaws is a member of the club of capitalist swine, and it's the bottom line, money,
Okay, so Ricky is basically saying Trump will win the midterms. Mark my words.
I could, you know what? You could. Like, I don't believe the polls. We've seen the polls fail. Like, all the polls are saying that The Republicans are looking for a real drubbing, more than usual. The party that's in power in the White House usually takes a drubbing in the Senate, Congress, but I'm not sure of that because the Democrats are too dumb. They haven't been able to take advantage of it. So I think Rick might be right there. I think they might lose. They might maintain the Senate but lose the Congress, something like that overall. But we'll see. We'll see. But I don't particularly buy what the polls are saying. I don't. And given how the Democrats can screw everything up, I mean, like I've said a half dozen times on this show, the Democrats are likely to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory any given time.
Well, and okay. So, but in fact, actually, the polls on the House elections, whilst they are predicting that the Democrats might well be the largest party, it's not clear that they're going to get a massive victory. There's a lot of toss-up areas where it's not conclusive.
Well, they forget the Trump factor. If Trump gets out there and starts campaigning, he's brilliant at getting votes his way. He's a real messianic figure. People kind of bow down to him, think him as a godlike creature, and they vote for him. So he's really good at doing that. He's really good at swaying people's votes. Plus they have a lot more money than the Democrats. The huge amount of money for Republicans. They have way more money than the Democrats have. And finally, don't forget the big super PACs like AIPAC and the Israeli lobby will be going more and more for Republicans because more Republicans are bow down to Israel. So they'll have a lot of money in their pockets from AIPAC. So there's a lot of factors here that the polls don't consider, I believe.
Yeah,
and so
a lot of this is going to come down to the predicted result as it sits right now is 208 Democrats, 207 Republicans, and 20 that they didn't predict right now. So it's all about those 20.
Well, right. Remember that back in 2022 when they had the last one. Remember they were. I was down in Florida at the time. I was watching a lot of Fox News because I couldn't get it up here. I wanted to see what their point of view was, and I watched Fox View, and they kept predicting this huge red wave that would demolish Biden and the Democrats. There was going to be this massive tsunami, this red tsunami that took over Congress and all that. Well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. And the 29 candidates that Trump endorsed back then when he wasn't in office, only one of them won.
Mm-hmm.
So, but things have changed now. So they're talking about this big blue tsunami. I think it's going to be just like the red tsunami back in 2022. It didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what might happen is you'll get a slight Democratic edge in Congress.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to know, and it's going to be different. I think you're going to see some areas of the country which are going to buck the trend.
It's hard to say. There's so many different factors here coming out. I don't think the politicians were ever ready to answer why they took money from AIPAC and why they support giving endless amounts of money to Israel.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever thought that was ever going to be an issue for them, but it is. And a lot of them are walking away from that or pretending their super PACs come from somewhere else. The money come from somewhere else. That didn't work for El Sayed's partner there, or candidate that he beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you have this fear factor that they're trying to work on, saying social democrats are communists. Well, what are the social democratic countries? Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark. They're the highest places to live. They've got the best happiness indexes. So if you're looking at social democrats and how evil and bad they are, they used to say, if we vote for social democrats, we're going to look like Venezuela. Like, that's impossible. But they work on the ignorance of the American voter and the Canadian voter. I'm including us too. The Canadian public is appallingly ignorant for the most part, and that's a problem we can fix. But it's harder in the United States because they're locked into their ignorance. Like, they are way, way behind. They just have no idea at all. I mean, if you say, okay, well, there's a problem in Madagascar, and they think it's in Florida somewhere. Oh, yeah. Madagascar, Florida. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the American ignorance is what's being exploited by both those parties. Both those parties love to exploit the ignorance of the average American voter, and we do it up here as well, but not to such a dynamic degree as they do down there.
Yeah,
as you can see by their news reports, like from CNN or Fox, it's just drivel, right? It's just absolute drivel.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So where are we? We're out of time right now, Dave.
Yes, and what I will do is I will point out the Gaza again. I mean, this whole idea about them, they're going to bomb people who have, like, kids who have kites. Come on. That's what they said they're going to do, right? So if you got a kite, well, if you're flying a kite, well, we're going to start using bombs again. That's their whole idea, right? There might be a Hamas guy in that tent city, so we'll wipe out half the tent city to get him, all the children and everything, and yet we don't want to use our expensive drones or everything. They can locate one person. We'll just use this excuse to kill whoever the Hamas guy is and terrorize everyone else. They are not an example of a democracy. They are not. And we, the rest of the democracies in the world, have to make them accountable for what they did in Gaza. And they can't fix their own problems, so we're going to have to do what we can to fix it for them. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu.
Yeah.